Welcome to Classic Mystery Narratives. I'm your host, Sir Reginald Thorne. Settle in with a cup of tea or a cozy blanket as we embark on a tale of intrigue and deduction in the style of the inimitable Agatha Christie. Today's story is Corpse by the Mirabell Fountain, a Hercule Poirot murder mystery. Picture the elegant gardens of 1920s Salzburg, Austria, where opulence hides dark secrets. If you're enjoying this slow, deliberate unraveling of clues, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Perhaps from a rainy evening in London or a sunny afternoon in New York. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Poirot's Arrival in Salzburg. In the golden summer of 1925, Salzburg lay cradled in the embrace of the Austrian Alps, its spires piercing a sky of unblemished blue, its riverbanks whispering tales of emperors and composers. The city, a jewel of Baroque architecture, thrummed with the anticipation of its nascent music festival, a celebration of Mozart that drew Europe's elite to its cobblestone streets. Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective whose mustache was as legendary as his intellect, had arrived by the morning express from Vienna. His purpose was not a case but a respite, a rare interlude to nourish what he called his little gray cells with beauty and order. Accompanying him was his steadfast friend, Captain Arthur Hastings, whose English sensibilities provided a foil to Poirot's continental flair. "Monsieur Hastings," Poirot declared as they stepped onto the platform at Salzburg Hauptbahnhof. "Here we find symmetry, do we not? The mountains, the river, the architecture, all in harmony. It is a balm for the mind." His patent leather shoes gleamed. His green eyes sparkled beneath the brim of his Homburg hat, and his walking stick tapped a precise rhythm on the stone. Hastings, ever the practical soul, adjusted his straw boater and inhaled deeply. The air carried the scent of alpine wildflowers, mingling with the aroma of fresh strudel wafting from a near Pegasus fountain they call the Mirabell Fountain, or a marvel. A private affair, gates locked to the rabble. You'll see Austria's soul. Poirot's lips curved beneath his mustache, a gleam of curiosity in his eyes. A fountain, you say, and a gathering of society. Oui, Herr Bauer, I accept. One never knows what inspirations may arise in such settings. Hastings raised an eyebrow but said nothing, accustomed to Poirot's penchant for finding mysteries where none seemed to exist. The next morning, under a sky as clear as crystal, the duo set out for Mirabell Palace. The estate, owned by the city but leased for exclusive events, was a vision of Baroque grandeur. Its pale facade gleamed, its marble hall echoing with the preparations for an evening concert of Mozart's arias. But it was the gardens that stole the breath. Parterres of vibrant tulips and roses, boxwood hedges carved into geometric perfection, and the whimsical dwarf garden, where marble gnomes leered from their plinths. At the heart of the small parterre, behind the palace, stood the Mirabell Fountain, a magnificent copper Pegasus, its wings flung wide as if to soar, water cascading from its base in a silvery arc. Flanking it were allegorical statues of the four elements: earth, air, fire, water, their marble forms weathered yet proud, framing vistas of the rose-covered hill and the fortress beyond. The garden party, hosted by Baron Heinrich von Kettering, promised to be the season's pinnacle. The Baron, a steel magnate whose fortune had weathered the Great War's economic storms, was a figure of both admiration and envy. Austria's young republic teetered on the edge of inflation and political unrest. Yet here, amid the clipped hedges and sparkling fountains, wealth and status reigned supreme. Poirot, in a pristine white suit, and Hastings, in tweed, mingled with the arriving guests. The Baron himself, a robust man in his 50s with a mustache to rival Poirot's, greeted them with a firm handshake. Monsieur Poirot, an honor. Uncle's disapproval of their romance. Herr Bauer, sweating in his linen suit, argued in hushed tones with the Baron about a mining venture. Franz, the butler, moved silently among the guests, his face an impassive mask honed by 20 years of service. Otto, the gardener, a burly man with soil-stained hands, adjusted a rose trellis, his eyes darting nervously. Reinstated after a dismissal for alleged theft, whispers said. The string quartet struck up a lively gavotte, and laughter rippled through the crowd. The gardens, alive with color and music, seemed a paradise untouchable by the world's turmoil. Yet Poirot, strolling toward the Mirabell Fountain, noted the locked gates of the small parterre, a heavy padlock securing the ironwork. Curious, he murmured, spotting the single key on the Baron's watch chain. A sanctuary within a sanctuary. Why lock beauty away? As the sun climbed, the guests dispersed across the grounds, some to the Hedge Theater for a rehearsal, others to admire the elemental statues. The fountain's water splashed softly, a counterpoint to the quartet's strings. Poirot paused by the Pegasus, its copper form glinting like a promise of freedom. Hastings, he said softly. This place is perfect, non? Yet perfection hides secrets. The little gray cells, they sense something. Hastings chuckled. You and your cells, Poirot. It's just a party. What could go wrong? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. In my experience, mon ami, where there is wealth, there is motive. And where there is motive. He let the words hang, his gaze fixed on the fountain's ceaseless flow. Chapter 2. The garden party unfolds. The afternoon sun bathed Mirabell Palace's gardens in a golden glow, casting intricate shadows across the gravel paths and vibrant parterres. The Mirabell Fountain, as locals fondly called the majestic Pegasus statue in the small parterre, stood as the centerpiece of the Baron Heinrich von Kettering's lavish garden party. Its copper wings gleamed, water arcing from its base with a mix of pride and scrutiny. At his side, Baroness Elsa von Kettering, radiant in a silk gown the color of alpine violets, offered a dazzling smile. But her gaze lingered on Lieutenant Victor Stahl, the scarred military attaché whose charm drew whispers of scandal. Captain Arthur Hastings, sipping a tart gooseberry punch, leaned toward Hercule Poirot, who stood impeccably dressed in white, his walking stick resting lightly in his hand. Jolly fine party, Poirot. But that Baroness, she's got eyes for the lieutenant, hasn't she? Hastings' tone was conspiratorial, his straw boater tilted at a jaunty angle. Poirot's green eyes narrowed, his mustache twitching. Indeed, mon ami. The heart betrays itself in glances, and here, many glances speak of secrets. Observe. The brother, Karl, drinks as if to drown a debt. The niece, Fräulein Anna, clings to her lover with defiance. And Herr Bauer, his argument with the Baron is most animated. Poirot's voice was soft, his words measured, as if arranging clues in his mind like pieces on a chessboard. The guests, a microcosm of Salzburg's elite, carried their own burdens. Karl von Kettering, the Baron's younger brother, swayed slightly, his champagne glass perpetually refilled. His tailored suit could not mask the haggard lines of a gambler whose Monte Carlo losses had left him dependent on his brother's dwindling generosity. The Baron's will, it was whispered, favored Elsa and excluded Karl, fueling his bitterness. Fräulein Anna Meyer, the Baron's orphaned niece, stood apart, her delicate hands clutching Lieutenant Stahl's arm. Her uncle's disapproval of their romance, Stahl's modest origins and murky wartime record deemed unworthy, cast a shadow over her youthful defiance. Herr Ludwig Bauer, the Munich industrialist, perspired as he debated the Baron over a mining merger critical to his financial survival. The Baron's sudden reluctance, citing ethical concerns, threatened ruin. Franz, the butler, party migrated to the Hedge Theater, a natural amphitheater of clipped boxwood, where a soprano's rendition of Eine kleine Nachtmusik enchanted the crowd. Poirot, however, lingered near the fountain, his gaze drawn to the play of light on the Pegasus's wings. "Hastings," he said softly, "this fountain, it speaks of liberty, yet it is bound by stone. A paradox, no?" Hastings, distracted by a passing tray of Apfelstrudel, merely nodded. By dusk, as lanterns flickered to life along the paths, the Baron called for a grand toast by the fountain. Guests gathered outside the roped-off parterre, their faces aglow in the twilight. "To family, to fortune, to Austria," the Baron proclaimed, raising his glass. But mid-sentence his hand flew to his throat, his eyes bulging. He staggered, collapsing against the fountain's base, his body crumpling onto the damp stone. A thin silken cord, eerily familiar, perhaps from his own dressing gown, bit into his neck, a crimson line marking the fatal embrace. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Baroness Elsa screamed, "Heinrich! No!" Chaos erupted. Guests pressed against the iron gates, but the padlock held firm, untouched. Poirot, swift despite his fastidious gait, pushed forward, Hastings at his heels. "Do not approach," he commanded, his voice cutting through the panic. "This is a crime, mesdames et messieurs. We must preserve the scene." The Baron lay motionless, the fountain's water lapping mockingly at his polished shoes. The gates remained locked, the key still on his chain. No footprints marred the soft earth inside the parterre, disturbed only by the Baron's own. The elemental statues stared down, their marble faces impassive witnesses to an impossible act. How had the murderer entered a locked garden, struck silently, and vanished? The cord, Poirot noted, matched the Baron's robe, last seen in his palace chambers. A single glove, Elsa's perhaps, lay discarded near the roses, its silk crumpled. A pocket watch. Lanterns cast eerie shadows across the Pegasus. The local police arrived, their motor cars crunching the gravel. Inspector Klaus Weber, a stout Austrian with a walrus mustache, took charge. "Murder in a locked garden. Preposterous," he barked, eyeing Poirot with suspicion. "This is Austrian soil, Herr Detective." But Poirot, undeterred, adjusted his tie. "The truth, Inspector, respects no borders. Permit me to observe, and we shall see what the fountain reveals." Chapter 3. The Discovery and Initial Shock. The twilight deepened over Mirabell Palace, its gardens now cloaked in an eerie hush, broken only by the soft gurgle of the Pegasus fountain and the stifled sobs of the gathered guests. Baron Heinrich von Kettering lay sprawled by the fountain's base, his lifeless form a stark contrast to the vibrant parterres and gleaming copper statue above. The silken cord, eerily reminiscent of the cord from his own dressing gown, bit cruelly into his neck, a crimson line marking the violence of his end. The small parterre, a sanctuary of roses and hedges, was sealed by iron gates, the padlock gleaming untouched, the key still dangling from the Baron's watch chain. No footprints marred the soft earth, save those of the Baron himself, and the high hedges offered no hint of breach. An impossible crime, it seemed, had unfolded in this locked garden, and the guests, frozen in shock, stared through the bars as if at a grim tableau. Baroness Elsa von Kettering's scream still echoed in the air, her silk gown pooling around her as she sank to her knees, supported by Lieutenant Victor Stahl. "Heinrich! It cannot be," she cried, her voice a blend of anguish and theatrics. Karl von Kettering, the Baron's brother, stood pale and swaying, his champagne glass forgotten on a nearby table. "A tragedy. A cursed tragedy," he muttered, his eyes darting nervously. Fraulein Anna Meyer clung to Stahl, her delicate face ashen, while Herr Ludwig Bauer mopped his brow, muttering, "This garden whispers." He approached the iron gates, his gaze sweeping the scene. The Baron's body, the cord, a single silk glove, Elsa's perhaps, lying near the roses, and a pocket watch, fallen from the Baron's waistcoat. Stopped at 7:15 p.m., the moment of death. The elemental statues, earth, air, fire, water, loomed like silent sentinels, their marble faces offering no clues, only shadows in the lantern light. The clatter of motor cars announced the arrival of Salzburg's police, their Ford engines coughing in the gravel drive. Inspector Klaus Weber, a stout Austrian with a walrus mustache and a skeptical frown, took charge. "Baron von Kettering, murdered in a locked garden? Preposterous," he barked, his accent thick with Alpine vowels. "This is Austrian jurisdiction, Herr Poirot. Your reputation is noted, but we handle this." His men cordoned off the parterre, their lanterns casting flickering beams across the Pegasus's wings. Poirot, undeterred, adjusted his tie with a delicate flourish. "Inspector Weber, the truth respects no borders. Permit me to observe, and perhaps I may assist. The Baron was a man of influence, no? His death demands precision." Weber grunted, reluctantly allowing Poirot to examine the scene through the gates, his authority tempered by the detective's fame. Poirot's scrutiny was meticulous. The cord, he noted, was identical to one from the Baron's robe, last seen in his palace chambers. How had it reached the garden? The glove, embroidered with Elsa's initials, lay crumpled, perhaps dropped in haste, though she claimed to have lost it earlier. The watch, its hands frozen, suggested a struggle. Yet the earth showed no signs of intrusion. The service door, used by Otto for morning maintenance, was locked, its key in the gardener's possession since noon. "Curious," Poirot murmured. "A crime so bold yet so invisible. The how is the key, Hastings, but the why. It is the soul." Weber's men confirmed the parterre's isolation. No ladders, no breaches in the hedges, no signs of climbing. Theater listening to the soprano. Witnesses would confirm, but his agitation suggested more. Anna, tearful, clutched Stahl's hand. "Uncle disapproved of Victor, but I'd never harm him." Stahl, his scar stark in the lamplight, spoke of military honor. "I patrolled the grounds, nothing unusual." Yet whispers of his wartime ties to shadowy arms deals raised questions. Herr Bauer, sweating, insisted. I argued with Heinrich over business, yes, but murder? Absurd. I was with the quartet. Franz, the butler, was stoic. I served drinks, sir. The Baron was my master for 20 years. Otto, the gardener, stammered. I locked the service door at noon. Haven't been near since. His dismissal for theft, though reversed, lingered like a stain. Clues began to form a pattern, faint but tantalizing. The glove, planted or lost. The watch, tampered with to mislead. A cigarette butt, Karl's brand, lay near the gate, though he swore he smoked elsewhere. Poirot's mind whirred, sifting truth from deception. Hastings, he said, this garden is a stage and the murderer a clever actor. But every actor leaves a trace. As night enveloped Salzburg, the dwarf garden's marble figures seemed to leer, their grotesque faces mocking the tragedy. The police, overwhelmed by the locked garden's enigma, deferred to Poirot's expertise. You have 1 day, Herr Detective, Weber conceded. Solve this, or we take over fully. Poirot nodded, his eyes fixed on the fountain's silhouette. The Pegasus soars, yet it is bound. So too is our killer, free, yet trapped by their own design. We shall find them, Hastings. But as the guests dispersed, a new discovery chilled the air. A folded note in the Baron's pocket, scrawled in haste. Karl betrays us all. A clue, or a cunning misdirection? Execution. Herr Poirot, he conceded, his voice gruff. Your reputation precedes you. The Baron was a man of influence. His death demands answers. Assist us, but do not overstep. Poirot's eyes twinkled, his mustache curving in a faint smile. Mais oui, Inspector. The little gray cells are at your service. But I require freedom to question, to observe, to deduce. Captain Arthur Hastings, hovering nearby, adjusted his boater. Jolly good, Poirot. You'll crack this locked garden puzzle in no time, eh? Poirot's gaze was distant, fixed on an unseen point. A puzzle, yes, Hastings, but one with many pieces, some true, some false. We must find the pattern. With Weber's reluctant blessing, Poirot established a makeshift headquarters in the orangery, a glass-walled haven filled with exotic palms and citrus trees, their fragrance mingling with the tension in the air. The hall's gilded chandeliers cast a warm glow as Poirot began his interviews, his notebook open, his pencil poised with surgical precision. The suspects, each with a motive tied to the Baron's wealth, secrets, or Austria's turbulent post-war politics, faced the detective's piercing scrutiny. First was Baroness Elsa von Kettering, her blonde chignon slightly askew, her violet gown creased from the evening's chaos. Heinrich was my world, she insisted, dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Yes, we quarreled. He was possessive, suspicious of my friendships, but murder? Never. Her glances toward Lieutenant Victor Stahl, who waited nearby, betrayed whispers of an affair. Poirot noted a love letter found in her reticule, its passionate words signed by Stahl, but her alibi, she was selecting sheet music with Anna during the toast, held for now. A red herring, perhaps, this letter? Or a motive laid bare? Karl von Kettering, the Baron's dissipated brother, slouched in his chair, his tie loosened, his breath sour with champagne. Heinrich promised to clear my debts. Monte Carlo's been unkind, he admitted, his voice unsteady. But he kept military precision. I patrolled the grounds, ensuring the guests' safety. The Baron was a patriot, but his business dealings, some called them unpatriotic. His record as a war hero was marred by whispers of espionage, and his romance with Anna gave him motive if the Baron's will excluded her. His gloves, Poirot noted, matched the silk one found by the fountain, though he claimed to have lost one earlier. Herr Ludwig Bauer, the Munich industrialist, paced the orangery, his linen suit damp with sweat. Heinrich and I argued over the mining merger. My company's future depended on it. He backed out, spouting nonsense about ethics. But I was with the quartet. Ask them. His alibi held, but his gloves, too, matched the one at the scene, and his financial desperation was palpable. Could ruin drive a man to murder? Franz, the butler, stood like a statue, his 20 years of service a shield. I served drinks, sir. The Baron was my master. Loyalty was my duty. His hands, steady and strong, could wield a cord with ease, yet his demeanor betrayed nothing. Otto, the gardener, was less composed, his calloused fingers fidgeting. I locked the service door at noon as always. I was pruning roses by the dwarf garden when it happened. His reinstatement after a theft accusation raised questions. Was there a grudge against the Baron? Poirot returned to the crime scene, now under police guard. The parterre's gates remained locked, the key undisturbed. The service door, checked by Weber's men, showed no tampering. Poirot examined the fountain's base, noting a faint irregularity in the copper. A small grate, part of the water mechanism, barely noticeable. Curious, he murmured. This fountain holds more than water, perhaps. The glove, confirmed as Elsa's, was dismissed by her as lost during a morning stroll, a convenient excuse. The cigarette butt, Karl's brand, lay near the gate, though he swore he smoked only in the head. Chap. A locked garden. No footprints, no entry. How'd they do it? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. The how is mechanical, the why is human. We must look closer, mon ami. But as the first rays illuminated the parterre, a maid's cry pierced the morning. A new clue had emerged. A tiny brass key, half buried in the rose bed, not matching the gate or service door. A secret entrance, or another false trail. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The puzzle deepens, Hastings. This key, it unlocks more than we know. Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. Dawn broke over Mirabell Palace, the Alps aglow with hues of rose and amber, their majesty a stark contrast to the grim scene within the gardens. The Pegasus Fountain, its copper form catching the first light, continued its ceaseless cascade, as if oblivious to the murder of Baron Heinrich von Kettering. The locked parterre, its iron gates and padlock untouched, remained an enigma. How had a killer entered, strangled the Baron with a silken cord, and vanished without trace? Hercule Poirot, his white suit immaculate, stood in the orangery, surrounded by the scent of citrus and suspicion. His notebook, filled with precise annotations, lay open as he sifted through the clues. The cord from the Baron's robe, Elsa's glove, Karl's cigarette butt, the stopped pocket watch, the cryptic note, "Karl betrays us all," and the mysterious brass key found in the rosebed, fitting no known lock. Captain Arthur Hastings, rubbing sleep from his eyes, joined Poirot as the morning mist curled around the palace. "It's a devil of a puzzle, Poirot," he said, his boater slightly askew. "That key, does it open a secret door? Or is it another of your red herrings?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes sharp. "Patience, mon ami. The key is a clue, but its purpose is not yet clear. We must verify alibis, test truths, and uncover the lies that hide in plain sight." Inspector Klaus Weber, his walrus mustache during the murder. A fact corroborated by the string quartet. Yet the note in the Baron's pocket gnawed at Poirot. "The handwriting," he said. "Is it yours, Monsieur Karl?" Karl paled. "Never. Someone's framing me." The ink, Poirot noted, was fresh, unlike the Baron's older correspondence, suggesting a plant, a red herring to divert suspicion. Fraulein Anna Meyer, her eyes red from crying, clung to her alibi. "I was with Aunt Elsa, then with Victor." Her distress seemed genuine, but her motive, disinheritance over her romance with Lieutenant Victor Stahl, was potent. Stahl himself, his scar stark in the morning light, insisted he patrolled the perimeter. "I saw no one near the parterre," he said, his military bearing unwavering. Yet a footman recalled Stahl near the service door at 7 p.m., closer to the crime scene than admitted. His wartime ties to shadowy arms dealers, possibly linked to the Baron's business, raised Poirot's suspicions. Herr Ludwig Bauer, his linen suit rumpled, confirmed his alibi with the quartet, but his desperation over the failed mining merger was palpable. "Heinrich's refusal would have bankrupted me," he admitted, his voice hoarse. His gloves, matching the one at the scene, were accounted for, except for one he claimed misplaced during the party. Franz, the butler, maintained his stoic demeanor. "I serve drinks, sir, far from the fountain." His steady hands, however, could easily wield a cord. Otto, the gardener, repeated his claim of pruning roses in the dwarf garden, but his nervous fidgeting and past dismissal for theft hinted at a grudge. Poirot returned to the parterre, now bathed in sunlight. The gates remained locked, the service door secure. Examining the fountain, he lingered at the copper grate noted earlier. A maintenance access for the water mechanism, sealed with a small lock. The brass key from the rosebed, he discovered, fit perfectly, opening the grate to reveal a narrow chamber within the fountain's base, just large enough for tools, or a man. "Mon Dieu," Poirot whispered. "The true killer." Poirot's questions grew sharper, but Karl's answers were muddled, his fear palpable. The cigarette butt, Karl's brand, was re-examined. A groundskeeper confirmed Karl smoked in the Hedge Theater, not near the gate, another planted clue. The stopped watch, cracked in a struggle, showed no tampering, fixing the time of death at 7:15 p.m. But a new discrepancy surfaced. The maid who saw the Baron enter the parterre at 7:05 claimed the gates were unlocked briefly, then relocked by Franz, not the Baron. "The butler?" Poirot murmured. "His hands are steady, his loyalty unquestioned. Yet why lock the gate?" Pacing slowed as Poirot meditated by the fountain, its water whispering secrets. "Hastings," he said, "this crime is like Salzburg's music. Elegant, complex, with hidden dissonances. The fountain's great, the key, the political shadows. They point to a mind both cunning and desperate." Hastings frowned. "But the locked garden, Poirot. No one could have got in." A startling twist emerged as Poirot re-examined the cord. A chemist, summoned by Weber, revealed traces of a chemical residue, not strychnine, but a rare sedative used in medical procedures, undetectable in small doses. Had the Baron been drugged before strangulation, explaining the lack of struggle marks? The robe, still in his chambers, showed no damage. How had the cord been taken without notice? The killer planned meticulously, Poirot said. But every plan leaves a flaw. As the day waned, a final clue surfaced. A torn scrap of paper in the orangery, scrawled with "Arms Deal" and a partial map of the palace grounds, pointing to the Hedge Theater's collapsed passage. A dead end, or a key to the killer's path? Poirot's eyes gleamed. The net tightens, Hastings, but the fish is clever. We are close, yet so far. Chapter 6. Clues emerge and red herrings multiply. The sun climbed higher over Mirabell Tangle. That key, the sedative. Could someone have hidden in the fountain? Or is this arms deal business the real motive? Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes sharp. The fountain, Hastings, is more than a statue. It is a mechanism, a clue. But the red herrings multiply, and we must separate truth from deception. Inspector Klaus Weber, his patience fraying, hovered nearby. Herr Poirot, your time is short. The Baron's death stirs Vienna. His steel empire funded sensitive ventures. Solve this, or we take over. Poirot nodded, his mind already sifting through the suspects. Baroness Elsa, whose affair with Lieutenant Victor Stahl whispered of betrayal. Karl von Kettering drowning in debts and fear. Fraulein Anna Meyer defiant over her forbidden love. Stahl with his scarred past and murky connections. Herr Ludwig Bauer desperate to save his company. Franz, the stoic butler with steady hands. And Otto, the gardener with a shadowed grudge. Poirot returned to the parterre, now under strict police guard. The fountain's grate, opened by the brass key, revealed a damp chamber, too small for a man but large enough for tools. Or a weapon. Examining the soil, Poirot noted faint drag marks near the Pegasus's base, hidden by the water's spray, suggesting the body had been moved slightly post-mortem. Curious, he murmured. The killer wished to stage the scene, perhaps. The glove, confirmed as Elsa's, was dismissed by her as lost. But a seamstress noted its fresh tear, inconsistent with a morning mishap. The cigarette butt, Karl's brand, was misplaced. Witnesses placed him in the Hedge Theater, not the gate. The note, with its fresh ink, bore handwriting unlike Karl's, hinting at a forger's hand. A new clue emerged. A faint oil stain on the cord, traced by the chemist to a lubricant used in the fountain's water pump. The fountain itself is complicit, Poirot mused, its mechanism a tool of death. The sedative residue, identified as chloral hydrate, suggested the Baron was dazed before strangulation, explaining the lack of struggle. But how evasive? I served Austria honorably, he said. But whispers of his ties to a black market arms ring, possibly linked to the Baron's steel deals, lingered. The scrap of paper mentioning arms deal pointed to a collapsed passage near the Hedge Theater, but inspection revealed it sealed years ago. Another false trail? Bauer's desperation surfaced in a heated exchange. Heinrich's refusal ruined me, he shouted, his alibi wavering as a footman recalled him stepping away from the quartet briefly at 7 p.m. Franz, the butler, revealed a past incident. Otto's dismissal for theft involved a missing silver tray, later found in the Baron's study, suggesting a setup. Otto was loyal, Franz said, but the Baron was harsh. Otto, confronted, grew defensive. I took nothing. The Baron rehired me. Why would I kill him? His calloused hands, Poirot noted, could easily wield a cord, and his knowledge of the fountain's mechanics was unmatched. A tense confrontation erupted as Stahl accused Bauer of sabotaging the mining deal to fund illicit arms. You knew Heinrich supplied the black market, Stahl snapped, his scar flushing. Bauer retaliated. You're no saint, Lieutenant. Your deals cost lives. The argument, overheard by guests, hinted at a deeper conspiracy, tying the Baron's death to Austria's rearmament tensions. Poirot intervened, his voice calm but commanding. Messieurs, your accusations are noted, but the truth lies in evidence, not tempers. A breakthrough came as Poirot re-examined the fountain's grate. A tiny scrap of fabric caught in the mechanism matched Otto's work apron, suggesting he accessed the chamber recently. Confronted, Otto stammered, I checked the pump that morning, routine. But the fabric was fresh, not weathered. Had he hidden there, emerging to strike? The drag marks, Poirot deduced, aligned with the fountain's spray, masking footprints. The sedative, possibly administered via a private drink before the toast, pointed to premeditation, gleamed. The fountain speaks, Hastings. It holds the key, literally and figuratively. Chapter 7. Complications arise. The afternoon sun draped Mirabell Palace in a golden veil, its baroque grandeur marred by the lingering chill of murder. The Pegasus Fountain, its copper wings catching the light, murmured ceaselessly, a serene counterpoint to the locked parterre where Baron Heinrich von Kettering had met his end. The iron gates, sealed with a heavy padlock, and the service door, locked since noon, guarded their secrets. The clues, a silken cord from the Baron's robe, Elsa's glove, Karl's cigarette butt, a pocket watch stopped at 7:15 p.m., a forged note reading, Karl betrays us all, a brass key fitting the fountain's grate, chloral hydrate sedative residue, a scrap hinting at an arms deal, a fabric scrap from Otto's apron, and a modified fountain valve, wove a tapestry of intrigue, laced with Austria's post-war political tensions. Hercule Poirot, his white suit pristine, stood in the orangery, its citrus-scented air thick with suspicion. His notebook brimmed with precise annotations, each clue a note in a discordant symphony. Captain Arthur Hastings, clutching a teacup to ward off the day's strain, adjusted his boater. Poirot, it's a proper muddle. The fountain's valve, the sedative, that arms deal scrap. Could this be a political plot? Poirot's green eyes gleamed, his mustache twitching. Perhaps, Hastings. The crime is a machine, intricate, calculated, yet flawed by human passion. We must untangle the wires. Inspector Klaus Weber, his walrus mustache twitching with impatience, pressed Poirot. Herr Detective, Vienna grows restless. The Baron's steel empire touched sensitive matters, arms deals, rearmament. Solve this quickly. The political stakes tied to Austria's fragile republic loomed large, implicating suspects in motives beyond greed or love. Poirot nodded, his mind racing through the cast. Baroness Elsa, entangled with Lieutenant arose. A footman reported a faint smell of almonds near the fountain at 7:10 p.m., suggesting cyanide, not chloral hydrate. Yet the autopsy confirmed strangulation, with sedative traces but no poison. A red herring or a second attempt. Poirot examined the Baron's champagne flute, kept from the toast, and found a faint residue, not in the drink, but on the rim, as if applied by touch. A private dose, he mused, administered before the toast, perhaps in the study. Interviews grew fraught. Elsa, her violet gown creased, admitted a heated argument with the Baron over Stahl's frequent visits. "He threatened to ruin Victor," she said, her voice trembling. A maid overheard her say, "I'll be free of you," hours before the murder. A motive or a misheard outburst. Karl, still rattled from his attempted flight, denied the forged notes accusation. "I owed money, yes, but betray? Never." A graphologist confirmed the note mimicked Anna's handwriting, but with deliberate errors. Another plant to mislead. Anna, tearful, revealed the Baron's will draft, cutting her out unless she abandoned Stahl. "I defied him, but I'd never kill." Her locket found in the rosebed was pristine, suggesting a plant. Stahl, confronted about his initials in the arms deal ledger, grew icy. "The Baron profited from war. I merely served." His presence near the service door at 7 p.m., noted by a footman, weakened his alibi. Bauer, his linen suit rumpled, admitted forging a contract to pressure the Baron. "I needed that merger," he confessed, but a servant placed him near the parterre at 7:05, arguing with a shadowy figure. Franz, the butler, revealed a troubling detail. The Baron had accused Otto of stealing not just silver, but a coded telegram about arms shipments, later found in the study. Otto was humiliated, Franz said, but he swore loyalty. Otto, defensive, insisted, "I fixed the fountain's pump, nothing more." Yet the oil stain on the cord matched the pump's lubricant, and his apron's fabric was damning. A dramatic baffled. Possibly a chemical from the pump misidentified. Another red herring surfaced. A maid found a monogrammed handkerchief, Franz's, near the service door, though he swore he was serving drinks. "It was stolen," he insisted, his composure cracking. The ledger's arms deal entries, implicating Stahl and Bauer, were written in 2 inks, suggesting tampering. Was the ledger a plant, or evidence of a broader conspiracy? As evening fell, Poirot stood by the fountain, its cascade a soft murmur. "Hastings," he said. "This crime is a Viennese waltz. Elegant, intricate, with hidden steps. The wire, the sedative, the political shadows. They point to a mind both bold and desperate." Hastings frowned. "But the locked garden, Poirot. No one could have entered." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "The garden is locked, yes, but the fountain's heart is open." A final complication shook the investigation. A stable boy reported seeing a cloaked figure near the Hedge Theater at 7 p.m., slipping into the shadows. A guest, or an outsider. The figure carried a small case, possibly tools, or a weapon. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The puzzle shifts, Hastings. This figure, is it our killer, or another piece of the masquerade?" Chapter 8. Twists in the Garden. The evening sun dipped low over Mirabell Palace, casting long shadows across the Baroque gardens, where the Pegasus Fountain's ceaseless cascade whispered secrets of a murder most foul. The locked parterre, where Baron Heinrich von Kettering was strangled with a silken cord, remained an impenetrable puzzle. Iron gates sealed with a padlock, the key on the Baron's chain, and a service door locked since noon. Clues piled like autumn leaves. The cord from the Baron's robe, Elsa's glove, Karl's cigarette butt. A pocket watch stopped at 7:15 p.m. A forged note. Carl betrays us all. A brass key fitting the fountain's grate. Chloral hydrate sedative. Baron's death threatens delicate alliances. You have hours, not days. The political stakes, rumors of rearmament and black market deals loomed large, implicating suspects in a web beyond personal vendettas. Poirot nodded, his mind racing through the cast. Baroness Elsa, entangled with Lieutenant Victor Stahl. Karl von Kettering, mired in debts. Fraulein Anna Meyer, defying disinheritance. Stahl, with his shadowy wartime ties. Herr Ludwig Bauer, facing ruin. Franz, the stoic butler, and Otto, the gardener with a grudge. Poirot revisited the parterre, where police guarded the sealed gates. The fountain's grate, opened by the brass key, revealed a damp chamber, too small for a man but perfect for hiding tools, or a mechanism. The modified valve, rigged for a pressure burst, suggested the cord was propelled through a water tube, striking silently. The drag marks, masked by spray, hinted at a staged scene. The cyanide-like smell, now traced to a pump chemical, was a red herring, but the sedative residue confirmed the Baron was dazed before death. The killer is a mechanist, Poirot murmured, using Salzburg's Baroque ingenuity. A major twist emerged. A police diver, inspecting the fountain's reservoir, found a thin metal tube concealed within the Pegasus's base, designed to channel water pressure. Mon Dieu, Poirot whispered. The cord was threaded through this tube, launched like an arrow by the valve's burst. The tube, barely visible, required intimate knowledge of the fountain's plumbing, pointing to Otto, the gardener, or someone with access to palace schematics. Yet the tube was clean, suggesting a single use, meticulously planned. Interviews grew tense. Elsa, her composure fraying, admitted receiving a threatening note days before, warning, "End it, or he dies." She assumed it targeted Stahl's affair, but its ink matched the forged Carl betrays note. Carl, still shaken, revealed a new detail. The Baron had confronted him about a missing telegram, accusing him of leaking arms deal secrets. "I never saw it," Carl insisted, but yet a groundskeeper recalled him tinkering with the pump late the previous day, unusual for routine work. The metal tube's design matched tools in Otto's shed, strengthening his link to the crime. A dramatic revelation shook the investigation. A hidden ledger page, found in the Baron's desk, listed payments to an unknown FS. Not Stahl, but possibly Franz Schmidt, the butler's full name. The payments, tied to arms shipments, suggested Franz was more than a servant, perhaps a go-between in the Baron's illicit deals. Confronted, Franz paled. "I handled correspondence, nothing more." But his access to the study, where the sedative was likely administered, raised questions. Another red herring surfaced. A maid found a locket chain, not Anna's, near the service door, engraved with LB, Bauer's initials. He claimed it was his wife's, lost months ago, but its shine suggested recent placement. "The killer scatters distractions," Poirot told Hastings, "but each false clue reveals their hand." A tense confrontation erupted in the marble hall. Anna accused Stahl of hiding his past. "You knew Uncle's deals were dangerous," she cried. Stahl retorted, "Your uncle profited from blood. Ask Franz." The butler, overhearing, dropped a tray, his composure shattered. The clash, witnessed by guests, hinted at a conspiracy. Could Franz, Stahl, and the Baron have been entangled in a black market ring? Pacing slowed as Poirot meditated by the fountain, its cascade a soft murmur. "Hastings," he said, "this crime is a Viennese opera. Grand, complex, with hidden motives. The tube, the ledger, the cloaked figure, they form a pattern, but it shifts." Hastings frowned. "The locked garden, Poirot. No one could have entered." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "The garden is locked, yes, but the fountain is a gate to treachery." A second twist emerged. A police search of the Hedge Theater's collapsed passage revealed a hidden compartment, not murmured ceaselessly. A silent witness to the murder of Baron Heinrich von Kettering. The locked parterre, its iron gates sealed, the key on the Baron's chain, the service door secured since noon, had baffled all with its impossibility. Clues had piled like notes in a Mozart concerto. The silken cord from the Baron's robe, Elsa's glove, Karl's cigarette butt, a pocket watch stopped at 7:15 p.m. A forged note, "Karl betrays us all." A brass key fitting the fountain's grate, chloral hydrate sedative, an arms deal scrap, Otto's apron fabric, a modified fountain valve, a cyanide-like smell, Franz's handkerchief, Stahl's glove, a hidden wire and a plumbing diagram. Austria's post-war unrest tied to the Baron's steel empire and illicit arms deals wove through the motives, implicating a cast of suspects in a deadly web. Hercule Poirot, his white suit pristine, gathered the suspects in the marble hall, its gilded chandeliers casting a warm glow over their tense faces. Baroness Elsa von Kettering, Lieutenant Victor Stahl, Karl von Kettering, Fraulein Anna Meyer, Herr Ludwig Bauer, Franz the butler, and Otto the gardener stood or sat, their eyes fixed on the diminutive detective. Captain Arthur Hastings, his boater in hand, whispered, "Poirot, old chap, you've got them on edge. Is it time for the grand reveal?" Poirot's green eyes gleamed, his mustache twitching. "Oui, Hastings. The little gray cells have danced their waltz, and the truth is ready to take the stage." Inspector Klaus Weber, his walrus mustache bristling, stood by the door. "Herr Poirot, Vienna awaits your solution. This had better be conclusive." Poirot raised a hand, his voice calm yet commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs, we stand before an impossible crime. A man strangled in a locked garden, no entry, no exit, no to sow discord. Another distraction, like her locket and Franz's handkerchief." Anna gasped, Stahl's scar twitching as he gripped her hand. Poirot continued. The sedative, chloral hydrate, was applied to the Baron's champagne flute rim, not the drink, in a private moment, likely in his study before the toast. The stopped watch marked the struggle, but the fountain's valve and tube are the heart of this crime. He paused, his eyes sweeping the room. The killer used the fountain's water pressure, modified by a hidden wire and valve, to propel the cord through a concealed tube in the Pegasus's base, striking silently from within the locked garden. Gasps rippled through the hall. Weber frowned. "Impossible. No one was in the parterre." Poirot smiled. "Not so, Inspector. The killer hid within the fountain's maintenance chamber, accessed by the brass key. They emerged, struck, and retreated, leaving no footprints, masked by the water's spray. He turned to Otto, the gardener, whose calloused hands clenched his cap. "Monsieur Otto, you knew the fountain's mechanics, your apron's fabric, the oil-stained cord, the plumbing diagram with your initials. You rigged the valve to release a pressure burst at 7:10 p.m., as heard by the groundskeeper. Why? Because the Baron caused your son's death in the war, supplying faulty steel to the army, a secret you uncovered in his telegram." Otto's face crumpled. "He killed my boy with his greed. I had to act." The room fell silent as he confessed. "I hid in the chamber before the party, drugged his private drink with chloral hydrate from the medical stores, and used the fountain's tube to launch the cord. I relocked the grate, escaping via the service door with a string to pull the lock shut." Poirot nodded. The drag marks, masked by spray, showed the body's repositioning. The cyanide smell was pump chemical, a misdirection. The arms deal ledger, implicating Stahl and Franz, was a distraction you planted, as was Elsa's unknown FS. Not Franz, but a mysterious figure. Was Otto alone, or part of a larger plot? Poirot's eyes narrowed. The curtain falls, yet a shadow remains. Chapter 10. Justice and Reflection. The morning sun bathed Mirabell Palace in a gentle glow, its Baroque spires gleaming against the backdrop of the Austrian Alps. The Pegasus Fountain, its copper wings catching the light, cascaded softly, no longer a stage for murder but a symbol of restored order. The locked parterre, where Baron Heinrich von Kettering had been strangled with a silken cord, had yielded its secrets to Hercule Poirot's little gray cells. Otto, the gardener, had confessed to the crime, driven by vengeance for his son's death, using the fountain's water mechanism to deliver the fatal cord in an impossible act. Yet the mysterious letter signed FS, found in Otto's shed, hinted at a shadow beyond the gardener's solitary act. As justice was served, Poirot stood poised to tie the final threads of this intricate tapestry. In the marble hall, under the gilded chandeliers, the suspects gathered one last time, their faces a mix of relief and unease. Baroness Elsa von Kettering, her violet gown pristine, clung to Lieutenant Victor Stahl, her eyes no longer darting with guilt. Karl von Kettering, sobered by the ordeal, stood straighter, his gambling debts now a burden for the courts. Fraulein Anna Meyer, her delicate features softened, held Stahl's hand, her defiance tempered by resolution. Herr Ludwig Bauer, his linen suit rumpled, faced financial ruin but no longer suspicion. Franz, the butler, resumed his stoic mask, his loyalty unquestioned. Inspector Klaus Weber, his walrus mustache less bristled, nodded to Poirot. "Herr Detective, Vienna is satisfied. Your methods, unorthodox but effective." Captain Arthur Hastings, his boater in hand, clapped Poirot's shoulder. "Jolly well done, old chap. A fountain as a murder weapon. Positively diabolical." Poirot's green eyes twinkled, his mustache curving. "Oui, Hastings. The little gray cells have prevailed." Handkerchief, Stahl's glove, the forged note were Otto's distractions, sewn to scatter suspicion. The arms deal scrap and ledger entries, implicating Stahl and Bauer, were clever misdirections, exploiting the Baron's illicit dealings to muddy the truth. Elsa, her voice soft, asked, "But the letter, FS, who wrote it?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "A final complication, madame. The letter, repent, or face ruin, was not Otto's work. It was penned by Friedrich Steiner, a Viennese arms broker who supplied the Baron's black market ventures. I deduced this from police records accessed this morning, confirming Steiner's initials and his grudge against the Baron for unpaid debts. Otto found the letter, using it to bolster his plan. But Steiner was not complicit in the murder. Weber nodded, impressed. Steiner's in custody in Vienna. Your deduction aligns with our findings. The suspects exhaled, the shadow of a broader conspiracy dispelled. Anna, tearful, thanked Poirot. You freed us from suspicion. Carl, humbled, added, I'll face my debts, but not a murderer's noose. Bauer, resigned, muttered, My company is lost, but my name is clear. Franz, his composure restored, bowed slightly. The Baron was flawed, but I served him faithfully. Stahl, his scar less stark, squeezed Anna's hand. We'll start anew, without his shadow. Elsa, now the estate's heir, vowed to honor her husband's memory, her affair with Stahl quietly buried. Otto, led away in handcuffs, faced Poirot one last time. My son deserved justice, he said, his voice breaking. Poirot's gaze softened. Vengeance is not justice, monsieur. Your son's memory lives, but your path has darkened it. Otto hung his head as Weber's men escorted him to a waiting car, bound for trial in Vienna. Poirot and Hastings strolled the gardens, the Pegasus Fountain gleaming in the sunlight. Hastings, Poirot mused, turning to new puzzles. As they boarded the train, the spires of Salzburg faded into the mist, the Pegasus Fountain a memory of elegance and treachery. Poirot adjusted his Homburg hat, his voice soft. Hastings, beauty and murder, they are old companions. But order, mon ami, always prevails.